Running away is easy. It's the living that's hard. Running away is easy. It's the living that's hard.
Welcome to Katie After Dark. Yes, I did use the same bump as before, and no, I'm not sorry about it. Hello friends, and welcome back to a bit of an unexpected and unplanned video. I had grand plans of making a very slickly edited and thoroughly scripted out query vlog. That probably still will happen, it's in the works. But for now, I think I want to talk about some of the things that are happening in my head right now in a series I like to call Katie After Dark, which is essentially just, it's nighttime, and I have an ambient light thing behind the camera, and we're gonna talk about my current emotions and feelings about writing. So, if you don't like that, I'll see you next week. So let's rewind a little bit to August of 2021. I had just finished the 4th draft of The Wrath King, and with stars in my eyes, I sent out the first queries. Then I decided, hey, while I wait, I might as well submit to Pitch Wars since my draft is ready. I was decently confident in my story, I thought my writing was solid, I really enjoyed the book, and then it was a waiting game. And oh boy, did I wait. And wait. And wait some more. Then finally, someone requested a partial, and so I submitted it. A step in the right direction. And then I waited. And waited. And continued to wait until rejection happened, and then another rejection, and another. And I didn't hear back from Pitch Wars, just left in radio silence, until it became apparent that I was not the one who was chosen for Pitch Wars, which is fine. This is a game where not everyone gets chosen, and sometimes you don't hear the reasoning why. That's just showbiz, baby. So I dove into writing. I tried to distract myself from The Wrath King with a couple of failed writing experiments until about December. I finally feel like I'd picked up steam, I was ready to continue drafting again, and then NaNoWriMo happened and the book falls flat. And I essentially have 48,000 unusable words from that, which are practice, I'll give it that, but unusable when it comes to the actual book itself. And so in a weird haze about 2 days before the end of NaNoWriMo and very sleep deprived, I started a different story, a secret project, a story I didn't think anyone would be interested in unless they knew exactly what they were looking for. Cruel Summer. It's still a bit hard to talk about because I still have a residual fear of judgment, and I'm slowly and steadily getting over that. Anyway, in more ways than one, this book saved my writing. I didn't tell anyone, but I had decided that if I failed NaNoWriMo, I would be looking in a different direction for my career. I would keep writing, always. I love being a writer, but I started thinking about schools that I might want to go to and get a graduate degree or a PhD so I could teach at a college. I started thinking about getting a job, maybe trying to get into a profession, and maybe I just wasn't going to get it right now. But somehow, despite the failure of NaNoWriMo, at 4 in the morning, Cruel Summer just sparked. It was the light in the dark, if you will, which is so fucking cheesy, but it's the truth. I wasn't thinking about Cruel Summer as a published book, but rather something to just get me back on that horse. It really did reignite my ability to write. And so I thought, I'll write this and then I'll move on to something else with my renewed vigor. Until a lot of things happened that I'll talk about those at another time because it's a little bit outside the scope of this particular video. Point being, Cruel Summer means more to me than anything else at the moment. It's and I can't even thoroughly explain it without getting ridiculously zappy, so TLDR, I love this book. And so with that in mind, I've decided starting September 6th, I'm gonna query it. Sorry for the Panic reference, I still love that song. So yeah, querying Cruel Summer. It really does fill me with a churning soup of emotions that I don't like. I started thinking about this and started to verbalize my churning soup within my brain because I was talking to my best friend, Wallace, in the DMs last night, and this is what inspired this whole video topic. Look at that, thanks Wallace. We were talking about Cruel Summer edits and how wild this entire process has been, and she asked me, are you allowing yourself a little hope to make the process fun? To which I responded, I'm trying. Then she asked me how I was feeling, and I responded with this, which I think speaks more than I could currently say. I am mostly worried that this book is going to be crushed in the trenches and I'll be back to square one again. And I'd really like for that not to happen. And she said that I have a clearer vision with Cruel Summer than I did with The Wrath King, which is entirely true, by the way. But in a way, that is almost worse than with The Wrath King. I knew I had the slim chance with The Wrath King. Fantasy is hard to break into. But the way this book has been received thus far, the way I love it, when The Wrath King got rejected, it hurt and really fucked me up. So I'm worried it will happen again with this book, and it'll be worse. So here I am, stuck between a rock and another equally hard rock, but there is also the chance that both rocks could be lifted off of me. This metaphor got way away from me. Essentially, I have two thoughts on how I should approach my mental stability when it comes to querying. One is to keep my hopes low, my expectations low, and then if my expectations are succeeded, I'll be pleasantly surprised. However, if I don't end up having success, will that sour my opinion towards querying even further and even towards writing again? Or do I ride the high hopes with this book until I crash back down, riddled with rejection arrows? That was morbid, I'm sorry. Or, in the best case scenario, I fly on those high hopes and then become a unicorn and sell my book in 2 weeks. That is ultimately what I want, but let's be a little bit realistic here, because I don't think that third option of, hoping for unicorn success is going to be particularly good for my mental health, or anyone's mental health, to be quite honest. Don't do that. I don't recommend. So I have to ask myself, what is mentally going to help me the most? In this community, we talk a lot about writing burnout. This is a conversation that is happening all over the world as we exit out of the pandemic, and as a lot of people realize that work has been dragging them into the abyss, especially for healthcare workers who have been working tirelessly since it all started. But what I think is interesting, and the only experience I can speak to is my own, is that I've come to realize that I think burnout is more of a spectrum. Oftentimes, I hear it talked about in absolutes. Oh, I'm definitely burnt out. End of story. I need to go get some rest, come back in a week, and we'll be cured, Or if you're like me, you vehemently deny that you're ever burnt out because the well is infinitely deep for someone who never stops thinking, and because the fire to create still exists. So by definition, can't be burnt out if the fire is still blazing. But a couple of weeks ago, I opened up a notes app on my computer and wrote out some of the things that I was thinking. They were just jumbled thoughts that were kind of rattling around in the skull up here. And so I wrote them down, and I recently came back to them. Titled under burnout, much like this segment, I wrote, feeling like none of the words are able to form. Scenes, images, ideas in my head, but I physically feel like I can't describe them in a way that feels wholly accurate. When I'm working, I don't want to work, but when I'm not working, I want to. Do I just love the aesthetic of saying I'm a writer? Obviously, it isn't the full case, because I doubt someone who loves the aesthetic would work this obsessively on it, but I digress. Is it better to get your book done, or to take the time to make it as good as it can? Take a break and return and make it better then? How to refresh yourself? There's a lot of questions in here, and I don't have time or the energy to unpack all of that in this specific video. I tend to have a structure to these, or at least I try to. And I've talked in the past about the incessant buzzing in my head and the fact that despite my best efforts, even when I'm not working, my brain is still thinking about these things. So it's better to just work and use that energy wisely. But I want to come back to one specific point within this, which is feeling like none of the words are able to form. Scenes, images, ideas in my head, but I physically feel like I can't describe them in a way that is wholly accurate. This feeling of words that are falling flat. Logistically, I can write, I can create, I can think of dialogue and set pieces and plot points and moods and characters. But when I'm feeling burnt out, we'll use that word for the sake of this video for now, I feel like I've lost the spark with the words. They're not right despite the fact there is nothing inherently wrong with them. This happened to me with The Witch Book, which is the book I was working on in NaNoWriMo that epically failed. And it's definitely happened to me at certain points when I was writing The Wrath King and Cruel Summer and Invisible String, and it happens to everyone. It's a natural ebb and flow of just not having great writing days. But I find when they kind of start to pile up, that's when I really start to get worried. And it's kind of happening to me again as I'm trying to draft this book that I love with all my heart, but is really just difficult to write, to say the least. So it's a double whammy on that one. We're not here to talk about that. That's a whole other video. And I think some of my fatigue comes from the continued chase of my dreams, which sounds really pretentious. This is ultimately what is the hardest part for me. I don't struggle with creation or drafting. I love the revision process and the kinetic energy that comes with connecting to other writers and working on a story. I don't love editing, but hey, it's gotta get done. It happens. I'm okay with it. I'll live, I'll push through. And yet, somehow, when it comes to facing the perhaps easiest part of the journey, which is clicking send on a book you've spent literally months working on, perhaps even years if you've worked on books for years, it's somehow the hardest. Because I now have to face the reality that my work might not fit in with the current market, that I might not query the right agent who has space for me, that an agent might just think my work's not that great for their list. All of those things are valid reasons to be rejected. I'm not saying this in a like whiny, complainy sort of way. I'm saying this more in a fear of losing out, shall we say? And that feeling is paralyzing to me. While writing the script for this video, I googled the definition of burnout. There are 3 main signs that I found on the internet: exhaustion, alienation from activities related to their work, and reduced performance. I am chronically ill and on medication that makes me literally exhausted all the time, so we do have exhaustion pretty well nailed down all the time. And I have been feeling myself drift from my own writing. I've been closing my Scrivener tab when I just don't want to look at it. I've been feeling a lot of shame for not writing the words I should be. I feel this pressure because I want to write this book, but I am ultimately afraid of letting myself and people who read it down, which is, again, an entirely different video topic. And then, unfortunately, when I do start working, I feel like my performance is drastically reduced and I feel hindered by these feelings. And here's the thing. I could say, I'm not burnt out, I'm just stressed. Which, I mean, aren't those kind of the same thing? I mean, there's nuances there, so, but again, we're not gonna get into that. However, saying in this moment, I'm not burnt out, does not negate the fact that these feelings are difficult to cope with. And I can't shake the feeling that I'm standing on the precipice of failure. Or success, possibly, if you're an optimist. And if you know anything about me, I am not one to shy away from failure. I intellectually know I needed to grow. I feel like I've grown a lot in the last couple of years, and I've grown a lot since I failed querying the Wrath King. But like burnout, failure and success are scales that slide and change with priorities and past experiences. I probably define success and failure a lot differently than I did a year ago. Maybe that's the key to fixing all of this. And maybe that is what I need to focus on. So to celebrate the success that I currently have, the love that people have shown this work, the amount of fun I have had with it, and even if nobody wants it now, I have learned a fuck ton from writing it the first time, rewriting it a second time, and querying it because, you know, it's good for the plot of my life. You know, isn't that a meme? God, I sound so old there. I'm not even old. So while this conversation is a little bit scary, and I know it sounds grim right now, I feel like I am ready to tackle this. There really is nothing else I can do except try. And even if I fail, I have you guys, I have this loving, amazing, supportive community. Writing is unfortunately very lonesome for a lot of us. It's a hard beast to tackle. Anyone who's ever tried writing a book can definitely agree and relate to that. And when you care so much and have done so much work, it's hard to see beyond the abyss. It's hard to see beyond the scenarios in your head that are revolving around failure. But again, I have to keep trying. Insert cheesy metaphor about continuing to climb a hill or swim the ocean or something. Whatever metaphor suits your fancy. Nothing lasts forever, which is a blessing and a curse. The feelings of success will not last forever, but the feeling of failure will also not last forever. And if I don't at least try, I've already failed. Which is an easier mentality to say out loud than actually adopt, but we'll get through it. Anyway, if you've been feeling this way and struggling, I am with you. Querying is hard. That is the summation of this video. The mentality I'm going to be taking forward is try again, because if you don't try, you've already failed. I don't know if that's fucking cheesy, but maybe it'll help you. These are just some thoughts I've had, some context, some ideas of, you know, maybe you can feel seen in this video. Let me know down below if you want, because, you know, to quote the great prophet, Olivia Rodrigo, God, it's brutal out here. So at the very least, my advice is to cut yourself some slack, internalize your priorities and motivations, and do what is right for you, whatever that looks like at this moment. That's all from me today. I hope you enjoyed this edition of Katie After Dark, which is a time in and of itself. I will see you guys really soon with a new video, the one that was supposed to be coming out today, but wasn't ready today, and that video will be much less, whatever the hell this is. Thanks so much for watching. Good luck, and goodbye.